The Mission ICU Talk show. We have here with us Armstrong Pame, who was district magistrate for Tamenglong, and now recently have promoted to the Deputy Secretary of Ministry of IT and BT Government of India. We welcome you on the talk show. So we have Dr. Gracy Majachunglu, who is the CM of Tamenglong District Hospital. So we welcome you to the talk show. Armstrong, I'll just start with you first is, how has been the healthcare situation evolved in the Northeast in the last few years?
I will not be in a position to speak for the rest of the Northeastern states, in fact, not even for the other districts, but particularly for the district here in Tamenglong, where I work as the district magistrate, and by virtue of our position, we are also the chairman of the district health society. Especially in the last 2.5, 3 years since the beginning of the pandemic, it has been a kind of reawakening for all of us in the administration. We had never dwelled so seriously into healthcare infrastructure. No one thought of oxygen concentrator. No one thought of, bypass machines. And all these basic, no one thought of setting up an ICU at the district level. However, with the coming of this pandemic, in fact, COVID, whether we like it or not, it has taken a big toll on many of our lives. But in one way, it gives us a sense of urgency. It gives us a sense of purpose and a mission to focus on the healthcare infrastructure. Even for a remote district like Tamenglong, you now have an oxygen plant, which, pre-pandemic, the entire Manipur had just 1 or 2 oxygen plants, that also for commercial purpose, not for the hospitals. So now in the whole state of Manipur, every district has an oxygen plant being set up, funded either by the state government or through the Prime Minister Care Fund. So it has been a real awakening for the health infrastructure.
So Dr. Gracy, we have seen that for everybody, it's just not for Tamenglong, but for the entire India, maybe for the entire world. These last 2 years, COVID was very difficult. So, we already know what are the major challenges, but would you cite any specific challenges which were very specific to Tamenglong?
Regarding the Tamenglong district as such, especially the difficulties is mainly on the transportation. Number 1. Number 2 is human resource. Since we don't have that much specialists, now with the COVID, they have developed the confidence to deal with those complications arising from the COVID infections. So we, as far as possible, we try not to refer the patient because the people up here are economically very poor. And once we refer the patient to Imphal, it takes quite a lot of things to face, not only the financial part, but also to manage the whole thing for fooding, lodging, and other things. So we try not to refer any patients as far as possible. So what we face, sometimes we feel that this COVID is a kind of boon to us because people are realizing the importance of health sector. As Sir Armstrong has mentioned that this is a reawakening. So we never thought of getting this PSA plan, and then we never thought of getting this ICU. It's just like a dream come true, so to say. Because in a remote place like this, we never thought that people like you or kind-hearted people thinking of us, trying to help us out and trying to get the information through some bureaucrats. Say, for example, for Sir Armstrong, for us is like a great pillar. Most of the time, we used to depend on him for taking the oxygen cylinder from Imphal, then carrying the other materials inland from Imphal because of the road communication. Very much we have faced quite a lot of problems. So those are the experience we had faced during those COVID days.
Yeah. So how big is your area? How much Tamenglong district really covers?
Tamenglong spreads across a geography of 3,300 to 3,500 square kilometers. We are not very hugely populated. Maybe maybe 1,30,000 to 1,50,000. But still then the villages are far from each other. For example, my native village where I was born and brought up basically is about 55 kilometers from here.
And how much time it takes? 55 kilometers?
2 days of walking, and now, of course, those were the time when we did not have the petrol. Now it takes about 4.5, 5 hours.
4.5 hours for 50 kilometers.
Yeah, if it doesn't rain. Or if it rains, it's rolled out. So that's how it is. That's why the job, as Dr. Gracy says, the most difficulty is in the road connectivity.
And in Tamenglong, I'm sure there were 5 ICU beds before, right? Inaugurated just today. So this 5 ICU beds was covering to what kind of population?
In fact, this 5-bedded ICU came up through the donation of our minister. Because see, we needed it so badly. So before we started getting from the main health department and from all these NGOs and others, we had no choice. So we requested the Honorable MLA of Sri Awangkoti to give from this MLA fund. So you please buy us this bed, we'll order from Delhi, you pay us. That's how we started. So slowly then then government sanctioned more, then corporate sector coming in. We converted from 5, I think, to 8 or 10. So 10-bedded ICU, we were able to run in the ground.
So how's the government support in terms of course in pandemic the government ensured they couldn't do much because there was demand from everywhere. But otherwise, what is the kind of government support you get for setting up whatever are the needs for the healthcare or hospitals?
Well, government is supporting in terms of human resources, like for example, the medical officers, the nurses. The second support, yes, it comes in a form of manpower, in the form of infrastructure setup. Like for example, this hospital was constructed, I think, I'm not sure about the exact cost, but about a cost of like 30 crores over a period of like 5 to 10 years. And in the peripheries also, the government is trying to set up more health infrastructure. See, the thing is, since Manipur is a resource deficit state, all of our dependency is on the central government. So we in the district administration proposed to the state government forwarded it either to the Ministry of Minority Affairs or the Health Ministry. And then once we get the funding, we started implementing. So in some of the peripheries, like the PHCs, the primary health sub-centers, so buildings are coming up. So with all of this, we look forward to enhancing the health infrastructure.
What are the key challenges that you look from the administration side to kind of a capacity?
When you talk about key challenges is getting, from the health perspective, let me be specific, getting the medical doctors. In nurses, yes, we have sufficient. I mean, if I now call 100 nurses who are not working, if CMO issues a notice today, tomorrow afternoon our office will be packed. However, for the doctors, for the MBBS law students, it is extremely difficult. During COVID time, the government gave permission to the district authorities to recruit anyone who is from the local. So, and we were given the freedom. They were paid 2,500 per working day. So we had about 8 local doctors who were willing to work. So we sent them to the peripherals, we sent them to this, and wherever the requirement was. So since the government gave us resources, we could get medical doctors. Now those resources are over, so doctors have disappeared again.
How do we solve this challenge on a permanent basis?
In my opinion, if the appointment of the recruitment is done, mentioning particularly for the particular district, say like Tamenglong, not in a general way. The recruitment should, if it can be done for a particular district, mentioning the name of the district, then I think that will solve most of this human resource problem, manpower problem. Otherwise, if it is recruited in general, the people will start trying for transfer and posting. So whenever if there is any chances of advertisement for the recruitment, then it should be done for a different district in a different area. I think that will solve the human resource problem. I think.
How many years you have been working here?
I've been working here since '96.
So I think you are an inspiration. So what made you stick to this?
I was born
So see, you are also from
Yes,
Imphal,
yeah.
yet you are working in a remote place of Tamenglong. So what is that inspiration? Maybe we can promote that, to bring more.
Actually, I don't know, maybe by virtue of my gender, I'm more attached with the females' problems, say dealing with the delivery or anything, any critical, like say, arises from out of this pregnancy. So seeing all those things and dealing with all those people, I feel that this is what I can do and I can help out. Otherwise, it depends on our mindset also, that whether you wanted to work in a remote area or not. There is always a choice. But whenever I given a chance for a transfer, I think I won't go back to Imphal. I'll stay here until my retirement. I was thinking, but since my children are there, maybe at the first of my retirement, I will go down to Imphal.
Actually, you are an inspiration to other people. And this needs to be promoted.
I think, Mr. Maanoj, one thing is many people take job just to get salary. I would frankly say that I've come across a lot of people who just work for the sake of working without so much of commitment and trust. So Dr. Gracy is someone who has the passion for her work. Basically, it's like if you are in a work which is like your hobby, it's like you don't have to work a single day because you're like enjoying what you're doing. So Dr. Gracy is like one example.
Can you share some of the incident, maybe which makes you so passionate about being here in Tamenglong and serving the society?
To mention in that, I have lots of experience. I have come across so many cases, but I wanted to cite two cases. One is from Sir's village from Imphal. It was long back 2007 or 8 like that. She came with a complaint of retained placenta. She delivered. She had a home delivery. The placenta was not out, and it was there for about 7 to 8 days like that. And then they heard that I was there in the hospital, so they brought her by that bamboo stretcher. And when she was brought, due to the infection, there was a lot of false blood coming out from her. Then somehow we managed. And then the next day, after giving conservative treatment, I could manage to save her. And she was so pale. She did a blood transfusion, but she refused to go. So what to do? So we have to keep her for a few days in the hospital and advising her and monitoring her personally what she eats. That's what I did to improve her immunity, at the same time her hemoglobin level. So after some time she became alright and she went back home very happily. And last year, it was just before the pandemic started that we went to the village. So that time that person came and brought a dry chili, and she offered me. I said no, I won't take, because people are so difficult to get all these things. I'm getting it there in Tamenglong. But she refused to take, and she said, you don't know me, that's why you are refusing. But I'm the one, you saved me. I was there already, but you saved my life. And I was so happy to see her, and I hugged her. And I said, okay, since you have given me that gift, I'm going to take it and I will be that one.
I think these are the memories you remember for the lifetime.
Yeah, I have so many memories attached with this, with my work, so to say. So, and another incident is one that was, it was in the year 2000 something, I forgot, quite long back. And that time it was in the old building hospital. And that time also one pregnant woman with the APH, antepartum hemorrhage, she was admitted from Tamenglong. And somehow we advised her to go to Imphal, but they refused to go. go because they don't have any money to take her. And at that time, we don't have any ambulance. Only we 3-4 doctors were there and few staff nurses. And somehow we requested her, but they refused to go, so she was kept in the ward. And during those days, one of the planning commission from the central government, they visited our districts. And at that time, I couldn't remember those names because it was quite long back. And in those days, some of the specialist team they came from Imphal along with them. And one of the surgeon and one of the anesthetists, they came and visited our hospital. That is Dr. Kipan Eswaran. He's still attached with our hospital after that incident. And he said that we are going to do the operation for this lady. And somehow the next day, we conducted the CS, cesarean section. But since we don't have those blood bank facility and other things, she died due to the heavy bleeding on the table. And at that particular moment, the surgeon and all, they told me that Dr. Gracy, you go and tell her husband that we cannot save her anymore. And at that moment, I don't know how to express my feelings at that moment. I was so shocked and I told her husband, please come and see your wife for the last time. And the baby was delivered safely, the baby was a girl. And somehow I could not console myself at that time. So that was the worst experience I had. And after that, I thought that I will do my specialty in gynae. I decided to do my gynecology. But since the government has given us only the seats are only for the other paramedics and pre-clinical subject, they hardly give gynecology and gynae and other medicines for the state quotas. So I applied, I appeared the exam. Every time I used to get successful, but the subject I don't want to accept it, so I dropped the idea of accepting those subjects. But lastly, since my we are aging, becoming older and older, so I thought that whatever subject I will accept it. So I took the physiology, then I completed my BC. So those were the experiences which I could not forget.
Truly inspiring, obviously. Coming back to rural healthcare infrastructure, what do you see the future of rural healthcare? In the light of, we already see that there's a lot of divide between the urban healthcare system and the rural healthcare system.
With this pandemic, I think the government is going to go a big way in investing in the rural infrastructures. The corporate people are also now focusing more on rural because they equally suffered. So I think I'm very positive. The first step we need to do is, not only one-sided, but as the focus is as much on the setting up of rural infrastructures, we should also be equally training the manpower to take over that rural infrastructures. For example, when the building starts construction, we should also be training the doctors, the nurses, the paramedics to parallelly run with it. And once the buildings are over, we shift them, make things work. So I feel now with the government going big ways in the health infrastructures, I think I don't think it will be impossible to say that the government will continue spending just 2 or 3% of GDP after seeing the pandemic. So I think the government is not going to spend less than 10% of the GDP on the health infrastructure. I mean, of course, I cannot speak for the government, but that's, I think, the focus of the government right now. And the corporate sectors, as much as I've been interacting and talking with them also, they want to invest in the infrastructures related to, manpower, physical infrastructures for the health sectors.
So what is the role that you see of the civil societies or NGOs or maybe social initiatives they would play in aiding this?
I think, as I have just mentioned also, you cannot expect government to do everything. Government, the focus is big. It's becoming difficult for the government to go very particularly focused on every villages. Now, with the corporate and the NGO sectors, you can have a focused particular approach. Like from so many districts of Northeast, you have just decided to pick Tamenglong. And Tamenglong, you have now focused to start your project with district hospital. Now after coming here, we have just briefed you how many PHCs are there, how many PHSCs are there. Your focus can go deep further. So I think the civil societies, the NGOs and others, you can particularly choose which are the critical areas. In fact, if you look at the health sector also, you can choose. You want to focus on the women's health, you want to focus on particular diseases, you want to focus on this. So in fact, I just shared with you how to take forward the nursing, providing nurses and others to the rural health sectors. For the government, it is not easy to focus particularly on all of those, so which the NGO has an advantage. So I think we can work together and make things.
Okay, so Dr. Gracy, what is the one message would you like to give on behalf of this hospital to people like us, or maybe the NGOs or civil society, how they could partner with you to kind of set up a great healthcare infrastructure?
I, on behalf of the District Health Society, would like to appeal to all the NGOs and the other CSOs and other people who are willing to help us out. In the remote area, as I has mentioned, that not only the infrastructure but the manpower is also required. So to give the equity of the health sector for the rural area, the main thing is to provide human resource. One thing. Unless we have the human resource, even if we have the infrastructure or even if we have all the things, the service cannot be reached out. So one thing is that we really need a human resource to do this matter, like say the children's immunization, then the awareness of the women's health. Earlier, we used to, most of the villages, they refused to take even the iron tablet. They threw away. So after giving awareness in many occasions, they are now realizing that the importance of taking iron is one of the necessary things for the development of their unborn child. So I would like to appeal to those CSOs, if possible, to help us out, even for the human resource, or even so to say the manpower for the rural areas.
So essentially, both of you have highlighted a very important point. It is the speed of infrastructure should be matched with the speed of hiring and the human resource. Right?
Yes.
So, what can a private organization, or how the private sector can help in terms of aiding this human resource?
The first thing, if we have to go to start immediately, maybe in the next 3-6 months time, let us make use of the available infrastructure by trying to come up to support with the human resources. Because see, as much as the government would like to start doing big ways, government has to follow this and that procedures, which always takes a lot of times. When you are suffering, you cannot wait. So I think the best way is, like, we have few PHCs already, which needs nurses. A PHC is supposed to have how many nurses? No, PHC for nurses and 3 doctors. So many of the PHCs may not be having that nurses, and then the PHSC, which is supposed to have at least 1 or 2 nurses, many of the PHSCs does not have nurses. So we can immediately start with that. Try recruiting the nurses from the level, because we already have local trained nurses. What they need is a minimum salary of like 15,000, 16,000, 18,000. Minimum, they'll be happy to work, because they also will have the sense of satisfaction that they are giving their service to the people. So I think that's one good way to start.
Yes.
And many of the girls, in fact, would approach my office when I was at DM, because I'm just given 20 seats to send them. So I had to conduct entrance tests, this and that. Many of them would be this stuff. So I think corporates can come forward to do fundings for education, be it in the nursing field, be it in the lab technician field, by giving them training opportunities.
Thank you. One last message you would want to give on behalf of people of Manipur and maybe Northeast and Tamenglong to partner organization that how they can contribute.
My last message would be come forward. We are part of this great nation called India. You cannot be happy alone. You need people to smile with you. So, people who are blessed with resources, born and brought up in cities, and doing better than the rest of the other parts of the country. If you want your country to be a superpower one day, you cannot have two very different India. So come forward, we look forward to working with you, and we will always be there to extend our help in whatever ways we can. Meanwhile, at the same time, we will give the best of corporations as you come forward to help us in the building of infrastructure.
Thank you so much for this talk show. And I think one last point, that is, you cannot smile alone. You need a happy people around to make this country happy. Very well said.
Thank you.
Thank you, both of you, for this.
Thank you.